Welcome to BackTalk Live. I'm Tom Hartwell. You probably already knew that. You know what I do. I go to meetings and try to create problems when I can, make people mad, that kind of thing. We have a good time on the show. I always try, or almost always try, to have a guest. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Tonight I got lucky. Erica Marty, she's a member of this Facebook group called Parents Have Rights. And they have been, she came to the Board of Education meeting, the last meeting, and talked to them a little while. And 3 minutes, I think, to be exact. And so I said, well, they did what they do at the Board of Education. They, tell her time is limited. Now, they don't always limit people's time, but if it's something maybe controversial or maybe something they don't like, they'll cut them off at 3 minutes. So anyway, I thought, well, I'd had some phone calls from people saying you ought to have some of these folks on your show. So we're going to do it tonight. We're going to talk about their grievances, and I don't know what we'll talk about, but I've already gotten some emails. I'm sure we'll get some text messages, so we'll just have a good time. You know what to do. Be right back. Erica?
Thank you.
I'm glad you came. Full disclosure, before we get started, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, about some letters that some parents had written and these kind of things. She'll explain all that, but I did not even realize until, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, who we were talking about. We're talking about the principal at the middle school. Talking about the principal at the middle school. I'm not really great with names. I know the principal at the middle school. He's always been nice to me. I see him, I wave at him and things like that. So I know, I didn't realize I knew him until about Monday or Tuesday, but anyway, we're just going to talk about all of this and see where it goes. So what is, I read some of the letters, and maybe you can explain a little bit more about that, the letters that these parents had written, and teachers, I think.
Teachers, yes. We have a lot of teachers that have also reached out to us. They started first sending us private messages because they're afraid to go public. It's their job, it's their boss, so they're afraid of retaliation. It's understandable. They don't really. So finally, we did get some of them to write letters to us. Some of them signed it with their name. Some of them asked to remain anonymous, and we respected that. Mm-hmm. I think a story doesn't lose its credibility just because they're not comfortable putting their name on it. Parents were also afraid of their students being, picked on by the administration. They were very good about writing on the Facebook group, which is very informal. It's more of an ambience where everybody feels comfortable with. But when you ask people, write a formal letter and we'll turn it into the proper authorities, that takes a little bit more courage and stepping out of their comfort zone.
Now, who are the proper authorities that you were going to?
Well, there's obviously a procedure that has to be followed every time, and they try that. You have an issue with the school or your child, you go to the principal. Uh-huh. They just always got hit in the face with the door, and when they were lucky enough, and I say lucky, to be heard by him, a lot of parents got yelled at. They have a principal yelling in your face, that's unheard of. At least for me, it's a complete lack of respect. You're a school principal. You can't lead your kids like that. You're an example for them. Mm-hmm. We have a big problem with bullying, and yet you're bullying parents in front of students.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, one of these letters that I read said that they were afraid that things were about to get physical.
One of the teachers, yes.
Now, so what I'm wondering, I don't know what happened, of course I don't, but I'm wondering, did she call 911?
No, I don't think she did, and I don't think a lot of people have reached out to the authorities, like the police or law enforcement. It usually, if you go that way, then you need money because you're going to need an attorney. And it's a lengthy procedure, and most people are just not willing to go through that. I mean, it's...
Well, I was thinking about it. If somebody were yelling at me and I thought that things were about to get physical, I know that what they tell me to do on television is don't carry a gun, but call the cops. Mm-hmm. And so if I think things are about to get physical and I don't have a gun, I'm going to call the cops.
Right. And a lot of people, I mean, it's just everybody reacts different. People freeze. People are in shock.
Yeah.
I mean, us women, we tend to, when you are, even men, I mean, when you're so intimidated, you tend to kind of freeze up and you just want to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of parents have done. I mean, there was a parent that she was yelled at in the lobby until she left the school crying. Yeah. So it's, I mean, everybody reacts different, and victims, a lot of times, they freeze. I mean, victims of any kind, just not just verbal, but physical and all.
We got a text from a mutual friend.
Okay.
We're also talking about the ability of citizens to have discussion with government school leaders. All good people in the Hart County school system, but administrative practices are leaning more towards, quote, you can speak for a few minutes, but we don't care to have a conversation or a dialogue, end quote. Yeah, that's a problem, really. It is in the school system that I've noticed going to these meetings for 16 years. And one of the former superintendents said that the state people tell them that you don't have to listen to the citizens. These meetings are not for the citizens. These meetings are for you and the boards. Mm-hmm. And citizens don't have a right to speak at the meetings. You can allow them if you want to, but you don't have to. Mm-hmm. So they're sort of, I think, taught from the state level to be kind of standoffish, which brings me to another question I have. Now, I see that some of these people go to the principal, maybe the superintendent. Does anybody go to their elected school board member?
They have tried, from what I know, that first they tried to reach out to school authorities, and they were just kind of brushed off or yelled at or intimidated or not even listened to. I mean, I had an issue with my daughter, and it was a serious issue, and I requested to speak to the vice principal, assistant principal, and I never got a call back from him. I requested to speak to the principal. I never got a call back from him. I mean, and I stated I have a serious issue with my child, and nobody ever returned until today, they have not reached out to me. So then I tried to reach out to the Board of Education, and I called, and I left a message, and nobody called me back, so I wrote a letter, and I emailed them, and I got an email back saying thank you, but I don't know what's going to happen to that. It's sort of the same thing that we went through with the meeting that last week that we went. We presented 21 letters, and it might not be many, but to have 21 people have the courage to write such personal, and the issues reported are very serious. I mean, we're not complaining about cold lunches at the cafeteria. They go from bullying to sexual assault. I mean, there's a wide array of very wide problems at the middle school. And we haven't heard back from them. We don't even know what to expect. Are they looking into it? Are they gonna do something about it? We don't know. Because all we did was we went up to there, they let us speak, and they did let me go a little bit over 3 minutes, but I had a whole group of parents, so it's kind of hard to sum it up in a very short time.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me, and it doesn't work this way, but it seems that it should. If you have a problem and you go to one of the paid administrators, they're paid for by tax dollars, and you go to them, in a sense, they really don't have an obligation to talk to you in the strictest sense of the word, because you didn't hire them. Mm-hmm. But you did hire the Board of Education. They are there to represent the citizens of Hart County. And each citizen has one Board of Education member who represents them from their district.
Right.
So at least if it were me, the first person I would contact would be my Board of Education member, and I would say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look into this and get back to me as soon as you can. And when he got back to me, I'd listen to whatever he had to say and see if they could resolve it. And if I was not satisfied, I'd say, here's what I want you to do now. I want you to get me a meeting with the following people, and I want you to be present. Because he is supposed to be the firewall between the citizens and the school system. That's their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of them maybe know it.
Right.
But that's their jobs, and if they don't do it, expose them. Letters to the editor. Come on this show and expose them for not doing what they're supposed to do.
There have been kids writing a child wrote to the newspaper. I mean, that's how you know that she sent a letter to the newspaper explaining why she was getting out of school. I mean, the number of kids that are being withdrawn out of Hart County Middle School to be homeschooled is alarming. I mean, you just keep hearing people over and over, I took my kid out. I don't know officially how many there are, but I'm sure there's a way that it can be found out. It's scary. I mean, why? Yeah. And we don't have, it's not like you have a choice of where you want to take your kid. It's that one. That's it.
Yeah.
Or the private school here, which, I mean, if you don't want your kid to be taught into the religious subjects, then that's not an option.
Yeah. I don't know, but you know, these things will be resolved one way or another. It should be resolved fairly quickly. I mean, I'm not saying that this guy is, you know, I haven't heard from him, so I'm not going to make a judgment on this, right, you know, based on what you say and what all these other people say. I'm saying that this is some alarming stuff. But there are two sides to everything.
Correct.
And I, you know, I'm sure he will not come on this show because, you know, he probably can't.
Right.
But nevertheless, I don't want to sit here and beat him up.
No, I would not refer to him by his name either, because I don't think it's fair. I mean, it's not. I'm referring to the actions that have been reported.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You know, the way he acts, the way he runs the school, it's not right. And that's what we're unhappy about. You know, since the day one that we went to that orientation meeting, they have one at the beginning of every school year. And I've been through this before because I have an older daughter that went through it, and she went through middle school like every other kid does, you know, with middle school issues that are pertinent to their age and the change and all of that. I mean, transitioning from elementary to middle school is always difficult, and then same thing when they go into high school. But this meeting in particular really was very, like, really? Is he really saying that? You know, you were like at a military camp. And he was in front of that crowd, and he was telling, you know, a new set of rules that nobody's ever heard of before, like, you know, there will be no talking in the hallways, there will be no talking in the cafeteria, there is no bright colors allowed in their clothing because it's distracting. They have Christian music playing in the hallways. I mean, what if you're not Christian? You know, that shouldn't be. School is not a place to be teaching religion unless it's a religious school, but not a public school. I mean, and as far as the dress code, there's got to be some, you know, flexibility there. I mean, the kids need to express themselves. When you hold them so tight together and you tie the rules around them so much, they're going to blow up. I mean, these are teenagers, or they're starting to be teenagers. So I haven't been there, and I believe that you can't go in there anymore because that's another thing, you know, nobody's allowed past the lobby. No parents, nobody. Even if you register yourself and have a reason to be there, whoever you have to meet, they have to come talk to you at the lobby.
I guess for safety concerns.
That makes sense.
For practical concerns, we need to take a break. and we'll be right back after this first commercial break. And I've got a couple of text messages and a bunch of emails. So hang around, it's going to get good. 5. All right, Erica, Marty. Now, before we get started, I've got some text messages to read, and I'll get to some emails as we can, but this Board of Education and Superintendent may limit the parents' and taxpayers' voice, but come election day, their time's going to be limited. It seems they've forgotten who they work for. Well, of course, that's been my position for a long time. Not that they've forgotten who they work for, but I don't think that it is. I think that the state confuses these folks, and I think that, like the first time I mentioned on this show that the school board represents the citizens, not the school system, well, man, they even had an article in the paper that brought that up. It was like shocking. So I think that you say that maybe election day things are going to change, but nobody will run for these things unless there's somebody that quits or dies or something. Then nobody will step up and run. Nobody wants to compete or, hurt anybody's feelings, I guess. All right, so it's certainly alarming when we realize citizens have concerns, but the system is geared towards putting the concerns of parents in a corner with an attitude of, we let you speak, but we're moving on now. And then we have good people throughout the Hart County school system, but the ability to express concerns isn't listened to by the leaders as it should be in our community. So those are some good points. I don't want to be too hard on these folks because I know that they're, trying to do, but I think that we just somehow got mixed up about what our duties and responsibilities are.
A lot of times I think that when real issues, at your citizens level, not up here with the government or when they become politicized, then they lose sight of what the issues are.
Yeah.
Because now it's about who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to fix it. Then I want to make sure that I prove that you're wrong. It doesn't matter. And then they just forget about the issue.
Yeah.
By the same toll, I think that a lot of times people forget and lose sight of what they're supposed to be looking after. In a school, I feel the school principal, your main is your kids. I don't care if the school is painted or not. I want to know about the well-being of my kids. I want to know that they're learning, that they're thriving, that they're being encouraged to express themselves, not to be quiet, but to do the right things. You have kids graduating from high school that don't know how to write a check.
Yeah.
There's got to be, you can't lose the sight of why you got into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people along the way, it's an ego thing, like we talked a minute ago, and it's a job, and it's a position, and no, it's not. It's about the kids. And the school system is about the children.
And I've talked to people about this since I found out about your group and all this, and there's one school of thought that says, what we do is we tell the superintendents and the boards of education and all the rest that we want some discipline in our schools.
Discipline begins at home.
I know, but that's what they hear, and that's what people say. We want discipline in the schools. They hear about these things that happen in school. People getting beat up or one thing or another, bullying and things, and they say, well, we want some discipline in the schools, and so they're saying, okay, so maybe this principal at the middle school, maybe he's a disciplinarian.
He is.
And maybe he's doing what, he was hired to do.
But discipline has to be applied fairly.
Yeah.
What we have right now is a dictatorship at the school. Even on the letters, I constantly, one phrase that keeps coming up in several letters from both parents and faculty members that have been in meetings which I wouldn't call it a meeting because a meeting goes both ways. And the principal just keeps telling them that this is not a discussion, meaning they can't say anything back.
Yeah.
So he's not a disciplinarian because discipline should be applied fairly after something happened that requires a disciplinary action.
Yeah.
But not when you come up with an issue and he's yelling in your face, you get out of my school, you don't tell me how to do my job. It's like, first, it's not your school.
All right, I gotta get to these. All right, what this woman is saying is alarming. However, no one should be allowed to meter the halls of a school without an appointment.
And yes, that is correct. I feel that way. But you should be able to go to either the cafeteria or wherever your child is after you go through the lobby and state your business. I mean, they have your name in there, when you sign that, they have all your information. Show your ID, I got a child in here, and you're able to do it in the elementaries. You can go have lunch with your school, with your kid at school. You can't do it at the middle. You used to be able to do it at the middle school, now you can't.
All right, let me see. Let me get. What are some of the concerns expressed by the parents and some educators that have been expressed?
Is it like a question of what are the concerns?
What are some of the concerns expressed by
mainly is, when parents try to report issues to the administration, they won't listen to them. They won't take their calls. They will not return phone calls. If they're lucky enough to be listened to or to meet with one of them, they just get yelled at and basically brush off and leave the school because you don't come in here and tell me how to do my job.
Yeah.
Faculty members is the same thing. They're being yelled at, they're being abused, they can't speak, and they can't meet with them either because he tells them, if you have an issue, send me an email or request a meeting. Well, I have a letter stating from a teacher, I sent several emails and he never ever gave me a time of day. So you can't. I mean, that's what we want to do, I want to go meet with you and explain to you what's going on with my child, what is happening. Bullying is a huge problem. I mean, kids committing suicide, I mean, that's an alarming thing. I have 14 teachers, I think, have resigned, not retired, they quit their jobs because they couldn't deal with this administration anymore, under this administration. Now, if that's an alarming, I mean, I understand that maybe people feel that one or two complaints are not a big deal, but when you have the same issues coming over and over and over again, and like I said, they're not mild issues.
All right, I got some, this is a long one, I hadn't read it yet. My wife, and you don't have to mention her name, well, I don't know who this phone call's from anyway, but put a letter in the packet as to how Mr. Edwards spoke very disrespectfully to her. It was no joke. It was very upsetting to her. Never once did she consider calling the police, as it has been ingrained in teachers to follow the chain of command. She did all the way to her board member. They all listened respectfully, but she has seen no action on their part. Mm-hmm. Teachers are afraid to come forward as they know he will retaliate against them. Check the last few years to see, since Edwards went to Hart County Middle School, how many good teachers have left. And then a follow-up, he says, we also need leadership in schools. There's a total lack of leadership at the middle school. That kind of goes along with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I read that letter, and I know exactly what he's talking about, and it's true. I mean, and she was an amazing teacher and just got completely, can you imagine your boss coming up to you and yelling at you? I mean, you can't do that, especially not in a position like that. He told one of our parents, I don't want you in my school because you work for the government. Like, well, you work for the government and this is not your school. I mean, and she had every right to be there because her child was a student there and he had her barred from the school.
These things, these things sound like things that are coming from a lack of training. If all these things are true, it sounds like it's a lack of training. When I was in business, I used to deal with people all the time, and I would go to seminars from time to time put on by the Georgia Department of Labor, and they can really help you out in telling you how to treat people, how to talk to people, how to make sure you're you know,
what you can say, what you cannot say.
And being fair. And it might be that they need to see if the Department of Labor has any more of those kind of seminars they could go to learn some of these things, because it's not rocket science. You know, it's just a matter, it comes down to being courteous.
What I think is, you know, and we've had things with the wording, you know, the newspaper published an article about the meeting that we were at and what we stated. And on one of their phrases, they wrote, you know, they delivered a package with letters claiming to be from parents. No, they're not claiming to be from parents. These are real letters from parents or faculty. We wouldn't be sitting there making up letters, you know?
Yeah.
And these parents wouldn't be sitting there making up stories either, because it took a lot of courage for them to write them and deliver them. So why would you put yourself at risk, you know, of being bullied or singled out, or your kid being singled out at school to make up a story? I mean, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position, which shouldn't be, but it is.
All right, let me get, this one says not acceptable in middle school, and I think what she was talking about is going in for a visit. Parents should not be permitted to go up the
Cafeteria, maybe?
Cafeteria, yeah. Halls or classroom during the school day except prearranged in the elementary school. Then she just popped another one in there. There was once an administrator's spouse who entered the back door at the high school and to go to a student's class. She was banned, as she should have been. I'm supposing that all of these things have to do with security, you know, because there's so many school shootings and that now. I guess that a lot of people are sort of worried about that.
But then going back to the security thing, you know, there was an incident not too long ago, and the paper reported it one way, and then they gave their side of the story on how the things happened. But then people that were there said that that's not how it happened. There was a parent that saw a post from a child that had a weapon on him or something, posted on social media that you better not come to school tomorrow. The parent tried calling the school early in the morning to advise them that this was happening. The school didn't answer the phone, so she called the police officers, the law enforcement. The police arrived at the school, and Edwards didn't even want to let him in. I mean, he was like, this is my school, and you're not coming in here to arrest anybody. And they were in there to arrest the child that had made the threats. At some point, I think the law enforcement even told him, you know, you better step aside, because otherwise we're going to have to arrest you as well. I mean, he was very defensive of his school, you know, and there's been other incidents also that in the letters from faculties that say there has been weapons in the school, and we just don't know anything about it. So, I mean, parents can go have lunch, but, you know, really?
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have kids in there anymore. I got some more text messages, emails. She's got some more information we're going to get to when we get back after our commercial break. Hang around. This is getting good. Erica, Marty, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you all for watching and for texting. And I'm going to try to read these texts here. All right, let's see. Are teachers in the middle school in fear of losing their jobs if they raise complaints as employees of the school system?
Yes, they are.
You know, yeah.
They are. I mean, they're afraid of raising their voice. I mean, it's, you know, you can't complain about your boss to your boss. And then they feel that, because apparently the principal has made it public several times in school that he's very good friends with the superintendent. So they're like, I can't go to the superintendent either because they're good friends. So all I'm going to do is get in trouble. I mean, and you know, I don't know how that part of the school works. You know, the employee and all of that. But apparently they can hurt their teaching career. They put stuff on the records. I don't know how that works. Yeah. But they are afraid of speaking. And that's why a lot of the letters we got are anonymous.
Well, I can say this. I've had this show for 15 years, and I have been talked to, school teachers have talked to me over all these 15 years about things, said, but please don't use my name. I don't need to get in trouble. And of course they all say, oh no, we want to have an open. All right, let's see. And this one says, I would like to know if our teachers really fear retribution for being dedicated educators of children.
Retribution or retaliation?
He says retribution, but
probably means retaliation.
yeah, maybe.
They do. They fear it, and like I said, a lot of the messages that were sent to us privately that we were not even able to include in the package because we were asked not to. They said, I can't raise my voice publicly. There's a message that says, I know, believe me, a lot of the teachers, most of the teachers are even more frustrated than you are. It's very difficult to work under this administration. It's a very harsh environment. It's a very hostile environment. And I mean, nobody's doing anything about it, It's like, can we quit ignoring the big white elephant in the room that, it's bad. It's really tragic that our kids have to go through this. There was a kid that the severity of their incident was so bad, they ended up moving out of state.
All right, a friend of mine who was a teacher at the middle school and a grandmother who visited there were both treated disrespectfully and bullied. The teacher shared that many co-workers were also mistreated. The grandmother said she had never felt so bullied as with this principal. What Erica said about the police coming is true. The newspaper omitted the fact that the principal was belligerent. There's never been a need for a group like Parents Have Rights in the past. Perhaps it is because parents felt comfortable meeting with the administration. Their principal was approachable. I feel so bad that the middle school has come to this. Let's see, I got to figure out how these things are coming in faster than I can read them. All right, let's see. He's been trained. This is a choice he's making. Knows exactly what he's doing. And then his school, that's how he refers to Hart County Middle School, the parents and faculty, and apparently the police. I thought he is an employee paid by the taxpayers. He needs to come down from his throne. He retaliates. And then heard that the superintendent and the middle school principal are friends and have been together at other schools, and Hart County superintendent brought him here. We also had mamas sneaking in to bring lunch money to their babies in class. It's a distraction, security issue, and not exactly socially acceptable for middle school or high school.
You can't sneak in. The doors are locked.
Yeah.
You have to go through the lobby. It's so terrible that why can't you go to the school, inside the school building, as a mother?
I don't know. Things have changed a whole lot since I was there, and since, look, I didn't have one, but there were plenty of guys that had pickup trucks, that came and had their shotguns and rifles hanging in the back window of their, unlocked trucks and things so things have changed. Everybody had a pocket knife. You needed a pocket knife.
It's a tool.
Yeah, everybody had. But now things are so different. I wouldn't even know. I don't even want to go on school grounds. I'd do something wrong.
And it's true. School has become. There's a lot of safety issues that have to be taken into consideration because there's been a lot of shootings. There's been a lot of threats, but parents should have the right to go inside the school. It makes it look like they're hiding something, like they don't want you to see something. I've heard comments from the cafeteria people that if parents were able to go in there and see what's going on, they would raise hell because it's bad. My child says every morning, well, I'm going to jail. I know that no kid is happy about going to school, but really calling it jail?
Yeah.
And she says, that's how they treat us, Mom, just like jail.
Well, I just don't know what I would do if somebody told me I couldn't go see my kid. All right, let's see here. Wait a minute. Tell Erica not to forget about bathroom issues.
Yes.
My granddaughter had a bad embarrassing issue because of not being able to go to the bathroom.
And my daughter has mentioned that to me too. There's very few teachers that allow the kids to go to the restroom. Some of them, they have a reward system called Bullbox, and it's like monopoly money basically, where the kids earn it behaving well, and then they can use it for different things. Well, there are teachers that will exchange Bullbox for the bathroom pass. There are other teachers that will allow them to go to the bathroom, but at the expense of having 3 points taken off of their behavior card. There's been a lot of girls that haven't been able to go to the restroom, and they have bled through their clothes, which I can't think of anything more humiliating than that happening to anybody, whether you're a kid or a grown-up. I mean, there are kids with health issues and letters from their doctors explaining how these kids need to be treated. I'm not talking about special ed, I'm talking about physical medical needs. And I think they're called IPs, I'm not sure, but it's a special letter from the doctors. They're ignored, they're not being followed. There are kids with kidney problems that are not allowed to go use the restroom.
And I'm supposing that is sort of in response to kids who want to go to the bathroom all the time. Maybe some teacher told me that sometimes they go in there and smoke pot and things like that in the bathrooms.
Yeah, but I can't imagine 20 kids going to smoke pot or to do something inappropriate in the bathroom when, really now, so let's lock up the bathrooms, which I've heard also that they have been locked before.
All right, listen, I sort of pride myself on reading all of the messages, and I'm getting way behind. This principal gives a great speech at orientation each year and tells us if we need anything to come to him. He preaches respect to the children. Well, I had a problem, went to him just as he said to do, but during my meeting with him, he walked out in the middle of me still speaking. What kind of respect is that? He stated he had just let me know how things were done, and he had another appointment to get to. During our meeting, he got louder in front of my child and even beat his chest out of anger because what I was speaking was the truth, and he knew it. He has major anger issues. And these parents should probably get an attorney and meet with the superintendent and school board. If you think that the Hartwell Sun is going to report anything negative about the school system, you've got to be crazy. Remember that the publisher/editor's wife works for the school system.
There is a lot of mixed interests apparently in the politics and civil things in Hart County. I mean, it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody is related to everybody. It's not easy. It's not. And there's a lot of influence things happening that probably shouldn't be happening. There are a lot of great things about Hart County and about being a small town as well. But sadly, we have to take the good with the bad, and we just do the best we can. We are not going to stop. The local Board of Education is our first stop, but not our last. We are prepared to go to the state and higher and as far as we need to go until our issues get addressed and listened to and taken seriously. Yeah. These are our children we're talking about.
I believe you. All right, pickup trucks, shotguns, rifles, and pocket knives. I guess your guest exceeded the ability of the commentary of the host. All right, let's see. The middle school under many administrators before Edwards was a wonderful place to work. Erica is right. Now it is a hostile environment. Now I've got a bunch of emails. Hang on. Dear BackTalk, thank you for allowing your guest to be on your show and serving as a legitimate forum for tax-paying citizens of Hart County. I commend your guest for taking the appropriate steps to resolve an issue with the local government. It appears that parents and teachers have attempted to follow proper chains of command, including talking to teachers, school administrators, the superintendent, and finally, the Board of Education. It appears the core problem lies in a lack of effective communication. Both parties, the school employees and parents, need to be able to be open and honest and communicate in a civil manner. Secondly, when parents call or leave messages to speak with school officials, they should be responded to as quickly as possible. Finally, when will the Board of Education begin a dialogue with the public when they come out and when they come to a board meeting to address their concerns? Please, Board of Education, give the public a voice and talk to them in the meetings. If the board would do this, your guests would not have had to use BackTalk and social media to be heard. And dear parents of middle school children, if you truly want to reduce bullying and punishment at school, please do not give your child a cell phone. I know the rhetoric. It is for safety and keeping in touch with your child in case of emergency. The office has a landline and can contact your child in case you need to reach them. Children, especially those of middle school age, do not know how to responsibly use cell phones. No matter how hard a parent tries to monitor their child's phone use, it is impossible to protect them from cyberbullying, sexting, pornography, and other dangerous material. Cell phones are prohibited in school, period. Students know the rules, and so do parents. If you insist on giving your child a phone, keep it at home and give them a flip phone without data. That will eliminate many of the problems that occur at school.
I agree. I mean, cell phones are a problem. Social media is a big problem. But that's something you have to deal with as a parent.
Yeah.
That's not the school responsibility to teach your kid how to use social media, to teach your kid how to not trash people online. You know, that's a parent's role, not the school role. The school can enforce rules about cell phones. Now sadly though, with this administration, your kid cannot go to the school and say, can I call my parent? Because they will not be allowed. And we've had that issue come up as well in the letters. Children have requested to have, can you please call my parents, my mother or whoever, because either they're being questioned or they're being disciplined, and they will not allow them to call their parents. So you feel like your kid is almost being held hostage while he's in school, you know?
Yeah, that's, if your kid really has a legitimate reason to call you, that shouldn't be there shouldn't be any discussion about that with the school officials. You just, here's the phone.
Well, they shouldn't, and the principal shouldn't be yelling at parents.
Yeah.
But
right.
Just because it shouldn't doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
We got to take a break. You don't mind? Be right back. Hang on. We got two more. Welcome back to BackTalk. I'm sorry. Okay, so I got a couple more of these text messages. Excuse me. I do have text messages, but I got a couple more emails. A lot of parents and teachers have complained that Mr. Edwards refers to the middle school as his school. The public and school board will quickly make the middle school his if test scores are low, there are problems with the cleanliness of the facilities, if there are problems with discipline issues, God forbid there was a mass casualty. That's pretty funny. All right, and this is the last email I have, and it's kind of a long one, but Dear BackTalk, it appears that many of the complaints about the middle school principal revolves around discipline. A child reports bullying and nothing happens. The principal is to blame. The child is punished for bullying. The bully is punished. The principal is to blame because the bully's parents said their child is innocent. Children bring drugs and alcohol to school. The principal is blamed for not addressing the issue. The principal bans water bottles and to keep drugs and alcohol from being used at school, and he is to blame for not allowing water bottles. Parents complain about bullying and sexual assault. The principal is to blame. The principal limits access to bathrooms where most assaults occur. No video to review. He is to blame for not allowing free access to bathrooms. Students need more punishment for breaking the rules. He is to blame. He attempts to punish students for bad behavior by assigning them in school suspension, and he is blamed for being too hard. And last, most of the student behavior policies are made by the Board of Education, including dress code, cell phones, etc. The principal of the school has the responsibility of enforcing the board's policies. It is not his fault if a child breaks a rule and is punished.
Well, I mean, there is some truth to that. There is. I mean, fair is fair.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it's so because children have been assaulted in the bathroom, we limit the bathroom use. I mean, it's silly. You can't do that. The biggest thing is victim has, it's a word I learned into this, victim blamed, you know. When the victims report a problem, they get victim blamed. When the victims finally speak up for themselves and defend themselves, then it's the victim that gets punished. I mean, it's not fair. You know, the way it's written on that email, it sounds like, yes, we're trying to blame everything on the principal. We're not, because the school worked fine before this administration. It worked like any other middle school with the same issues that they all deal with when you have we have over 700 students here in Hart County Middle School, a little shy of 800. So yeah, you have preteens and teenagers, and they're testing their limits, and they're rebellious, but every middle school deals with that. Yet we are the only middle school that deals with a principal like the one we have right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm skipping my real estate commercial because I've got so many text messages, but why did so many faculty resign this in last year? Why doesn't the superintendent check into that? Well, I think that's sort of what you're asking yourself.
And we did ask the Board of Education, please check the files. I mean, we don't have access to that information. I don't know how many kids have been taken out of school to be homeschooled, but he can find out. I don't know how many teachers have resigned, but he can look into that and then look into the files and I mean, check, maybe this teacher came to me before with a complaint and I ignored it.
Again, I say go to your board member.
Yes.
And get the board member to get on that. That's his job. I think all board members should take a lesson from Joey Dorsey and the county commission. They are totally transparent and give their constituents an opportunity to speak on anything before a vote is taken. They also solicit public comment and input in their meetings. They, the county commission, is not only financially savvy, they are trustworthy. If a child is denied the right to contact their parent, there is a serious legal issue of youth rights and parental consent within the school system. Have we gone full totalitarian in Hart County?
It seems that way.
Yeah. So you think Edwards is being, wait a minute. Okay, you think Edwards is being friendly to you by throwing up his hand when he sees you? He says in front of teachers how much he can't stand you and calls you Lee, Frick, and Frack. Also, if he bullies students, parents, and faculty, that's when he is to blame. And who is the principal of which you speak? Principal Edwards at the middle school.
Edwards.
Brian Edwards. I'm caught up now.
Good.
Now, you had some things here yourself.
Just a few things that I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget about.
We got about 5 minutes.
Well, we've gone over most of them.
Yeah.
There's just like the water bottle issue, I understand, and that's what my daughter told me, because I'm very ecological, and I think that with an environmental crisis as we're living, to be blind to it would be irresponsible. So I stopped buying water bottles at home, and this is my personal story. I'm not talking on behalf of all of the parents on the group. So when she asked me to buy water bottles, I said, no, you have your reusable 50 things in the kitchen. We're not allowed to bring them at school. I said, why? She said, because kids were bringing alcohol to school into those things. Well, you can just put, alcohol into a water bottle as well. You don't know what's in it unless you drink it. I mean, it's silly. So then my next question was, well, do they at least have recycling stations for this? And she said, no, there are no recycling stations anywhere in school. So you have 800 students, 800 plastic water bottles every day. I mean, it's irresponsible. That's just my personal point of view. You're not gonna stop them from bringing whatever they're gonna bring, because you can see the water bottle on the outside, but you don't know what they got in their backpacks.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we would have to go through a whole crazy thing about, clear backpacks, or, as they talked about at some point when the massive shootings, metal detectors going into school, dogs walking up and down sniffing for drugs. I mean, it's crazy. We can't go that far.
I believe if I went there, I might need one of those alcohol bottles.
Yes.
This is about our children. I'm not blaming. I'm telling you, we have to have communication between administration. It does not happen. That's all I'm asking. We talk about security. Wand me for any harmful contraband like court, but let us in. One board member said, we don't hire and fire principals. We are just here to rubber stamp.
Really?
Maybe if reasons behind these rules were explained, water bottles, and then it cuts off. So I don't know what happened there.
There are a lot of rules that, like, no, kids are not allowed to have dyed hair, like of colors. I don't think that's right, but because kids should be allowed to express themselves, especially kids this age. You know, if you're not allowed to dye your hair pink in support of breast cancer when you are 12, 13, 14, up until when? When are you going to do that? When you're 50? I mean, this is the time where you protest, where you express yourself, where you rebel. I mean, it's normal to do that. Every generation has done it. Why are we tying these kids, you know, that's not right. The bright colors thing, I mean, what are we, concentration camp? I don't know what it is, you know. I mean, even inmates in jail would get to wear bright orange. You know, our kids can't wear no tie-dye.
Yeah, a lot of parents I hear talk about how we need to have uniforms, and I think that is in response to these kids that wear their pants down too low and things like that. I've always thought that you just tell them don't wear your pants too low.
Right.
Let's see, wait a minute now. Is Brian Edwards any relation to Vernon Edwards?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe the reasons behind the rules were explained. No water bottles, bathroom accessible during class breaks, no bandanas, no facial piercing, etc. Then this would help.
Yeah, there is a rule that says no hair bands, because apparently it's a gang-related thing.
What do they do? Take them out and pop people with them?
I have no idea.
We used to do that with rubber bands.
No, I think, I'm not even sure what it is, because I'm not familiar with what gangs use or don't use. But I'm pretty sure that that's not the case. You know, when a girl wears I think they're the ones that have like cat ears. I'm not even sure. But it's kind of ridiculous, don't you think? That, I mean, no bright colors, no hairbands, no dyed hair, no talking in the cafe. When do they talk? They don't have recess anymore. They can't talk in the hallways, which is when they talked in between classes. Now they got to walk on the right to prevent chaos and listen to Christian music while they march to their next class quietly.
There are good reasons for most of the rules, this one says, and I tell you, one rule is here. We're over. We're done. We got to go.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the messages. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for the space.